everyone. Welcome to the second to last week of Code Sprint A. So we're in the final 2 weeks of that first code sprint. So this week we're going to be wrapping up our React knowledge, and we're going to be working on our alphas of our final projects. And then next week the focus is all on the final project, and then there'll be some supplemental material from me that is not going to be required, but will be there and be available for extra credit if you want to do it. So for instance, things that we don't do this week, we don't talk about how to pull data from an API. We don't talk about local storage, like how to store data in your browser, so that if you open your browser after closing it, there's still some data that's stored with your application. So those will be things that I'll cover as supplemental next week. And you can do them if you want to include those things in your final project, but you won't have to. But just know those are coming if you're thinking about those in your final project. So the other thing that I want to say before we switch over to the canvas is, since we are now deeply in the final project territory, you may be struggling with scope for your final project. You may be tackling something that's too big, and so now is the time to have a meeting with me. So I've expanded my office hours for this week, so you can grab a 15-minute slot. I have some evening slots available to chat about your project, where you're at, and what kind of scope you have for your project. So I'll help you scope it down to be something reasonable that you can do in this class. Okay, let's flip over to the canvas and walk through this week's material together. So, as always, there's another module that has been published that has an overview and then a bunch of assignments. So, starting with the overview, this video you're watching is here, and then the list of things to do this week is here. So I realize that it seems like more than previous weeks, but it's actually less than previous weeks. There's more time this week for you to work on your final project. And so this first one is a self-assessment survey that is for participation points. You fill it out, you get the full points, and it's a really simple survey. It should take you a couple minutes to do, of how much work do you feel like you're putting into the class on average, how confident are you that you can pull off your final project, and what areas of your final project are you confident in, what are you worried about. So this is a self-assessment so that you can think about how you're doing in the class, and it'll also give me a sense of how are people feeling in the class as we're heading into the final 2 weeks of class. So that one shouldn't take very long. Then there's a practice assignment on errors and debugging, and basically I walk you through this process of identifying the types of errors that you'll hit in your projects, and walk you through a debugging checklist that I want you to go through anytime you're hitting an error in your project. So for this one, you are just watching this video. You are potentially following along with the code if you want to, but to finish this assignment, all you have to do is any JavaScript or React project, open it up and show me that you know how to use the debugger by taking a screenshot of you using the debugger. So you can even finish this project by working on your final project, the code for your final project, and doing some debugging in there. This skill is really, really important. So definitely spend time doing it and start bringing this process into your workflow, because when you ask me for help on your projects going forward, I'm going to ask you, which of the steps from this practice assignment did you go through? Where are you in this debugging checklist? Okay, then there is a building and deploying React projects, a short 15-minute video of how can you take a project that is a Create React app project, build it so that you get the optimized assets and optimized and compiled assets that you can host on a service. And I go through a service that we'll be using in this class. So you don't have to submit anything for this page, but you will have to take this knowledge and apply it for your final project alpha milestone. Then there is the last of the required React kind of workshops that we've been going through, building the quiz app. And in this one, we build the stats and the trivia item components that allow us to essentially replicate what we had in HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. But now we're doing it inside of React. So same as the last ones, go through this, submit to me your final code, just the source folder. I don't need anything else from your project. Then there is the final project alpha milestone. So this is kind of the big chunk of work for this week, is digging into your final project and working on what would be called your alpha. And alpha, I mean, you read this page, go through it, but like loosely, it means that you have some of the features of your application implemented to the point that someone can open up your application and interact with it. So it might not have all the styling, it might not have all of the features implemented, but it's got something that someone can interact with and start giving you feedback on. So I have a video of me doing that for the to-do app that I've been building along the way with you all. And then there's a description of specifically what you should be working on for your final project this week, like updating your Kanban board, pushing to GitHub, building and deploying your alpha, and giving me a written summary of what you've done. And then the last one here is sharing your final project progress. So you're going into that project progress channel, you're editing your previous post so that it has your project idea screenshots, which you've already done. It also has your wireframe and a link to your deploy of your application. The last point here was what I was talking about with setting up office hours. So I have expanded office hours for this week. This is an optional, but like a totally recommended thing for you all to do is grab one of those slots and have a 15-minute meeting with me about where you are in your final project, the roadblocks that you foresee coming, and I can help you figure out how to tackle those roadblocks and also how to scope your project. The last thing under week 4 is under every module is the code solutions from the tutorials. So they will be a week lagged from the assignment. So this week I will be posting the solutions to last week's once the submissions close and no one's turning in last week's assignment. So you'll always have those to refer back to if you need a clean kind of working copy of week 3's tutorial or week 2's tutorial. Okay, so that's it for this week. I will see some of you on Friday, and reach out if you have questions.